Good evening, Dolphins fans. Welcome to another episode of On the FinSide with Kat and Paul. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the Fansided Network and FinFanatic.com. We waited a long time, Paul. I mean, 8 hours of draft coverage to get to pick 102. And that pick was worth the wait for me. I mean, if in the evidence of that is we're not hard to find. We take we do position by position analysis. We talked very highly of Channing Tindall. The Dolphins picked the linebacker from Georgia. And, this is somebody that I had very high on my short list, along with Tariq Woolen from UTSA, who's a project, Zach Tom, who's undersized as a center offensive tackle. But Channing Tindall is somebody at a need position who runs a 4.47 with a 42-inch vertical leap. I mean, just a really good job by the Dolphins staying put and grabbing the player available.
Yeah, no, and Josh Boyer's defense is relying upon speed. I've made no secret over the past few years talking about Landon Roberts and the fact that he's fast, but he's a guesser. He just guesses and goes. You watch Tariq Woolen. Tariq does a beautiful, or Jesus, Channing Tindall.
It's been a long day.
It has. And we were just talking about Tariq Woolen as well. But Channing Tindall does a beautiful job with read, recognition, and then seek and destroy. And there aren't many players that get up to speed as quickly as Channing Tindall does. I watched one play, I think it was against Tennessee, where he blew through, had the sack lined up, and slid down the quarterback, managed to pop up off the ground and catch him from behind 5 yards away, and was running faster than the quarterback as soon as he got on his feet. Like, he doesn't quit. He doesn't sit down and feel bad for himself for a second. And he doesn't miss very often. And the play recognition is just out of this world. And I think he and Baker are going to add so much speed to the middle of that defense and the ability to move around a lot that it's going to be really fun to watch in a way that you can't with a Landon Roberts.
Absolutely. And he is raw in pass coverage. But then again, a Landon Roberts, what does he do in pass coverage? Not much. So if you get a bigger, longer player, I mean, you're talking about somebody who, okay, he's a one-year starter at Georgia, but then again, Jermaine Johnson, who was a first-round pick for the Jets this year, was a one-year start. Or it went to Georgia and transferred to Florida State. I mean, so there's no shame in being a one-year starter in this Georgia program. And let me ask you if this sounds like a Dolphins linebacker in this scheme. PFF, who you can have an opinion on one way or another, and everyone does.
I've got a few.
They're tough graders when it comes to college prospects. This is what they say his pros are. Nose for the football. Tindall wins hunting down ball carriers. He runs like the Terminator, seemingly picking up speed with each step. He is the kind of player who can set a physical tone. What is his best role? Blitz-heavy linebacker. He blitzed 1/3 of the time at the University of Georgia. For every 3 plays, he blitzed one time with 4.47 speed with a 42-inch vertical leap. His only drawback is pass defense. He did not have any passes defended in college. But then again, he's going to be a heat-seeking missile, so it may not matter anyway.
Yeah, and you know what? And what I'd say there too is I think you hit the nail on the head with Landon Roberts. What does he offer in pass coverage? I like Channing Tindall's odds more in pass coverage because his recognition skills are better and his speed and acceleration are better. So there's a chance on any given play for him to get involved. And he's a very long player. He looks and plays like if you were designing a linebacker on Madden, create a player.
Absolutely.
That's how you build it.
Yeah. And the only drawback to him is that he's not great in pass defense because he's raw. and he's only been a 1-year starter. I mean, that's really it. I think also too, there's another thing with him is that he's also been viewed as kind of the little brother of the linebacker core with Georgia. Quay Walker went 22nd overall in the first round of the Packers. Nakobe Dean went shockingly 83rd overall. And Channing Tindall was always viewed as that third guy, but he was because he only started for that 1 year and wasn't as flashy in pass defense as the other two.
Yeah, and it's easy to get overlooked within that Georgia defense. It's easy to get overlooked when some of those guys have been playing a little bit longer. And I just can't get over the speed. And not only does he accelerate well, but he's able to adjust quickly and break down extremely well, given how fast and hard he's running on any given play, to be able to adjust if a player tries to juke, if a player tries to spin, if a player tries to run him over, he's got the power for it. Like, this is a fantastic pick for Miami. This hits it out of the park, and he's a player that's going to contribute right away.
You bet. You bet. And they stood pat at 102 after 8 hours of waiting. And we saw a lot of players get taken right in front of them that were very, very talented, including Nakobe Dean, who, I mean, it would have been a surprise if he fell out of the first round. He fell to pick 83. So Todd McShay has some explaining to do because he wanted to fall on a knife for this guy. And, he still could be a great player. And I feel bad for the kid because it must have been a terrible draft day for Nakobe Dean. But anyway, the conversation here is about Channing Tindall.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. Like, this is again, I keep going back to this. This is the type of player that Josh Boyer drools over. What do you have? 5.5 sacks this year, I think. A ridiculous number of tackles.
Yeah,
for
5.5
loss.
sacks and 15 tackles for loss. And, he was only a full-time starter this year, but again, not a shame in the Georgia defense, as we've seen how many players have come off the board here just in the first 102 picks.
Yeah, he makes the right decisions on the field, which is huge, especially for a very raw player. Like, the upside's tremendous, and he's the perfect linebacker for the style of defense that Miami should be running on a game in, game out basis, with that cover zero, move players around, blitz, and occasionally drop. And the fact that the coverages are going to be so disguised is only going to help him in pass defense, even if he's just dropping into hook zones and reading the play.
Right. And just what you said before is how he complements the other linebackers. If the Dolphins drafted Tindall in the middle of the second round or something to do what Jerome Baker does, I would think that's too much for him because he's so raw in pass defense. But Baker's got that. He's the one that is covering that area of the field. Tindall has a different role. He's going to be able to be sent to the quarterback just like he was on 1/3 of all snaps at Georgia. He was blitzing at 4.47 speed. That's what I can't get over. And that's why I'm so excited about this pick and why I had this player rated so high, even heading into the draft.
What's going to be really fun with the two of them together is when you see one fake the A-gap blitz and then the other goes. And then you start over accounting for it with each of them. And then occasionally you blitz both right up both A-gaps. And you're going to see a center fall on his ass trying to figure out who to block. You're going to see guards miss Christian Wilkins or Zach Sealer, and you're going to see unadulterated paths to the quarterback. You're going to see players standing there not with no one to block. Meanwhile, the quarterback or running back's getting blown up in the backfield.
So, question that needs to be asked is, would you have taken anybody else above him at that spot? And if so, who?
No,
Okay. I was very close
it,
between 3 players. And again, when you get at the back end of the 3rd round, you're nitpicking. Okay. Somebody has to be completely off the grid to be, uh, for me to be upset.
yep. Cat froze a little bit there, so we'll get back to him in a second. For me, it was about the linebackers there. There was Leo Chenal, who I like a lot.
Above him. If
Um, sorry, you froze up, so I
no,
continued.
good,
So
good.
what 3 players?
So Zach Tom,
Mm-hmm.
Tariq Woolen, and then Channing Tindall. So the players that were left on the board, and I posted this at the beginning, I mean, even before the draft started, that the realistic players that were going to be available there were, and the ones that actually got to pick 102 here. Number 1 was Channing, or was Tariq Woolen. Number 2 was Zach Tom, and number 3 was Channing Tindall. So he was right there with every single last player, and it's pinned to my tweet on Twitter. So we're not hard to find.
So for me, it was about the linebackers in this spot, and it has been all along. For you, I don't think there was a show where I didn't take a linebacker first with our picks after the Tyreek Hill trade. Whether it was trading up to get a linebacker, whether it was staying pat and grabbing a linebacker. The top of my board was very, very linebacker heavy. So I mean, Leo Chenal's a guy that I would have definitely looked at here, potentially. Channing Tindall makes tremendous amount of sense. And Leo Chenal with the very next pick, I think.
Yeah.
And then I'm totally blanking on the 3rd linebacker. It has been a long night.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
But let me ask you this now in retrospect, you were a big Troy Anderson fan.
Mhm.
Would you rather, if we talked about trading up, we talked about trading down, in retrospect, would you have rather the Dolphins stayed at this pick at 102 and taken Tyndall, or traded up to the late 2nd round to take Troy Anderson?
I was never a proponent of late 2nd round trading, so stay pat and take Tyndall. Any trade that I looked at for the Dolphins this year would have been potentially giving up a second to come into the top end of the 3rd round to go after one of the linebackers like Tyndall or Tyndall, potentially Muma, Troy Anderson if he was there, you know, Nakobe Dean somehow. Looking at those guys, I would have given up a pick to go up, and even if it ended up being Tyndall at the top of the 3rd,
Yeah, there
I
were
would
so
have given
many
up a pick for that.
athletes here at linebacker that just ran out of this world. And
Mhm.
that's what matters at the linebacker position, the range and the athletic attributes, because I'm not sure if there's something that happened with Nakobe Dean, but part of it could be too that he's 5'11", 230 pounds. And, in pass defense just doesn't have a lot of range. I mean, that's got to contribute to it in some way. Channing Tindall, his teammate, I thought always had at least a chance to be drafted over him because of the physical skills he brings to the position. And I'm glad he's bringing those to the Dolphins.
Yeah, and the one guy I also thought about if we were to trade up even, that wasn't a linebacker would have been James Cook, but he went in the late 2nd to Buffalo. So that wouldn't have been an option anyway.
That had to hurt.
It hurt a little bit. Not gonna lie, but again, we look at so many prospects throughout the offseason, and Cook wasn't a need, he was just a hell of a good fit. So
Yeah.
and I don't think that the Buffalo Bills will use him in the same fashion that I envisioned for Miami. So
Yeah, quite possible. I mean, it's safe to assume McDaniel is going to be more creative than a lot of coaches, especially the offensive coordinator in Buffalo. So yeah, I mean, we're going to get back at it tomorrow. We're going to start at the top. The Dolphins have pick 125 in the fourth round. I still have my guys at the top: Tariq Woolen, the cornerback from UTSA, and Zach Tom, the center slash offensive tackle from Wake Forest. Those are the two guys I'm eyeing. Who are you thinking about?
My top 5 in no particular order for that pick 125 are Calvin Austin, Zach Tom, Chigakonkwo, Khalil Shakir, and Tariq Woolen.
I love
A
it.
lot of weapons and an offensive lineman.
I love it. And we talked too in our receiver show that, I mean, if you have 20, 25 players, I mean, wide receivers projected to go in the top 3 rounds, somebody's going to fall. So we've already seen Channing Tindall fall to pick 102, and likely going to see another wide receiver fall to pick 125. That's going to do it for our breakdown of Channing Tindall, the linebacker out of Georgia, goes to the Dolphins at pick 102. Thank you for joining us here tonight, and everybody who joined us in the chat here as well. I'm Brian Cat NFL, Paul is Fanatic_pick. You can also follow us on Facebook, Twitter, all of our social media outlets, as well as the FinFanatic website and the FanSide network. And if it's not on the right side and it's not on the left side, it is on the Fin side.